All right, guys, we seem to be in focus and everything seems to be fine. A little bit of an update video here. I just picked up a Fuji X-H2. This one I paid for with my own money. So now I have 3 bodies. I have 2 X-T5s and 1 X-H2. The reason I picked up the X-H2 is mostly because I just really like the body, and I do need the flip out screen for like run and gun YouTube videos and just making more content for you guys, like I was doing with my Sony a7 IVs. So in today's video, I want to run you guys through the focus settings that I'm using. A lot of you guys asked on my first initial video when I told you guys that I was switching over to Fuji, and I put the file in my store that you can download. That's still there, so if you have an X-T5 on the latest firmware as of today, you can go to my store and download my camera settings for free and upload them to your Fuji if you want it to be exactly the same as what I have set up today. If I walk out of the frame and come back, it focuses on the background and then pretty much instantly picks up my face and then focuses on it. Even if I go from close focus like this to back, doesn't seem to get stuck or anything like that. Now, as far as the video settings go for focus, as I said, I have it on focus area, which is really important. I find multi or wide tracking works okay with the touchscreen especially, but I find multi just doesn't work. I don't know why. So I have it on area, and then AFC custom settings. This is the most important part. I have it on +1 and -3. And that just works really well. I'll put that video up so you can see what it looks like exactly, but yeah. Other than that, I have face detection turned on with eye detect off. I find eye detect just makes it jump around a little bit, whereas face detect seems to work really well. Otherwise, I'll just turn that off if it's not behaving, but that's pretty much my focus settings. For the Fuji lenses, like the LM series, that seems to be the best for me. I honestly can't really get it to fault. It seems to be really smooth, and this is the same for the X-H2 or the X-T5. So yeah, I set it up in the studio here in a backlit situation, so it's about as bad as you can get in terms of making the camera struggle. It's really bright in the background, and I also have a 1/8 black mist filter on the lens as well. I'm personally pretty happy with these. I still think this a7 IV is a little bit better in terms of just overall kind of focus smoothness. But you know, with this Fuji on the latest firmware and the LM lenses, it seems to be really, really smooth. So I'm pretty happy with it, honestly. I'm fine with that. You could change the focus speed from -3 to -2, and it will change quicker, but I do find it's not quite as smooth, and -3 for me is the sweet spot. Everybody's going to be a little bit different, but in terms of my video autofocus settings, that is what works best for me. So now talking about focus with photo and mostly the X-T5, but same with the X-H2, it just works a little bit differently on the X-H2. I'm going to go through the settings and you guys can see the back of the screen, and I'll tell you guys exactly what is working best for me. So as I said, I have AF mode as single point most of the time, especially if there's a bunch of people in the frame. I find that works better for me. And the focus area, I just have set 1 up from the smallest point like that. So I can just move the focus point around and push in to go back to the middle. And that's working really great. Sometimes I'll use the wide tracking mode, which just allows you to kind of grab your subject and track it that way. I just find that sometimes it doesn't quite keep on what I want it to keep on if there's a whole bunch of people in the frame. So, for a wedding ceremony, for example, I'm going to be using AF mode single point and just moving the joystick around. If it's a couple shoot or something like that, I'm going to be switching it to wide tracking, and that works really well when there's just 1 or 2 people in the frame. As far as AFC custom settings goes, I have it on number 6, the custom one, with tracking sensitivity set to 2. Speed tracking sensitivity set to 1, and zone area set to auto, and I find that works really well for me. I picked that up from another video I saw on YouTube, the guy saying it worked really well for him, and I find the same results for me. Store AF mode by orientation I have set to focus area only. That just makes it a little bit easier when I'm kind of you know, when you're going from landscape orientation to portrait, it just holds that, you know, it makes it a little bit easier. Pre-AF I have set to off because I just don't need it, and it just chews up more battery. And with face detection I have it set off just because I find it does jump around a little bit, and I have it set to this bottom button here so I can just turn it on and off really easily. For the same reason, I find if I'm using, you know, if just photographing 1 or 2 people, the face detect works really well. It just jumps around a little bit when there's heaps of people in the frame. And then the other thing I'm doing is, obviously I'm a back button focus person, so AF on is my focus, and I have it disabled on my shutter button because I don't want it refocusing when I half press the shutter. I can put a link to a video where that was quite popular, where I described why you should use back button focus. This is quite a long time ago, and it was on Sony, but it doesn't matter, it's irrelevant what camera brand you're on. Back button focus just works really well, and there's lots of reasons for that. So if you're not used to it, I would suggest switching over to back button focus and just using AFC all the time, and you're going to get much better results. I also have shutter AF turned off, so that's what disables it from happening on the shutter. And I also have shutter AE disabled for both modes, because if I'm using like aperture priority, because I don't want it to be, when I half press the shutter for the exposure to hold, I want it to change to the scene I'm on. And when I'm in manual, it's irrelevant. Obviously because I'm changing the settings manually. When I first switched over to Fuji and I shot that first wedding, the only missed results I had was when I was using the wide tracking and there was just too many people in the frame. I was using too wide of a lens and it just hit the background. You know, it wasn't way out of focus, but it wasn't on focus. And if it's not on focus, it counts as a miss for me. So yeah, it is a little bit more of a manual process compared to when I was using my Sony a7 IVs. I don't have a problem with that personally. All I'm doing is, you know, when I'm not using the wide tracking mode, is just setting my focus point with the joystick, because I know what I want the composition to be, so I'll just put the focus point where I want it and then, you know, shoot away. Because I'm using back button focus, there's no stress with, you know, accidentally refocusing with the shutter button. So overall, I am really happy with the focus system on the X-T5 and the XH2. So that's pretty much it, guys. I hope that was quick and to the point and helped you out. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video soon.